Hola, buenos días con todos. Feliz miércoles. Estamos de vuelta en Grow Yulatán esta semana, muy contentos, iniciando el mes de agosto con muchos planes. Y hoy tenemos un invitado espectacular. Estoy súper contenta de tenerlo desde el otro lado del charco, como decimos. Él está transmitiendo directamente desde Viena. Y voy a contarles un poquito acerca de mi invitado. Yo he estado promocionando muchísimo esto porque a mí particularmente lo que él hace, su background me encanta y creo que es una gran manera de expresar las emociones, ¿no? De expresar lo que tenemos adentro. Y yo conocí a David, y ahora les vamos a contar más de esto, pero yo lo conocí a David hace años en un entrenamiento de 6 Seconds, donde fui mentora. Y él es australiano, vive en Austria, pero vive en Austria, y algo que me llamó particularmente, todavía sin saber que él era cantante, su voz, su postura, digo, wow, ¿no? Y bueno, ya tiene años viviendo en Austria, él nos va a contar un poquito más, es cantante profesional de ópera, y intersecta este campo de la inteligencia emocional con la voz y la presencia. Además, es conferencista profesional de un grupo que se llama Toastmasters, que es un grupo conocidísimo, muy antiguo, donde se entrena la voz, se entrena este arte de hablar en público, de comunicar. Entonces, si sumamos esto a la parte de la inteligencia emocional, es un boom poderosísimo. Así que sin más, voy a pasar a presentarles a David.
Hello, good morning, Fiorella, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. I don't speak the language that you were mentioning, but I could hear particular words, and I love that, having understood a little bit of Italian in my background, cantare and voce and words like this. So thank you for that. I can see too the description that you left of me in the chat. This is wonderful. And hello to you. And so you're in Florida in the US, and I'm here in Vienna, Austria. And we have, I presume, people online or joining us from around Latin America. Is that correct?
Yes. We have the whole region, and sometimes we have Brazil too in the region.
Okay.
And since this is in English, I invite everybody else because I'm going to be translated. And I said, I caution them. I'm going to be translating. I'm not going to be singing. So people are going to,
Good. I won't be singing either. So as much as we might be thinking today, what I aim to deliver and help our audience today is to think about how they use their voices. And the work that I did, as you said, in the opera with Opera Australia, I bring now as a Toastmaster, as a speaker, as a facilitator, but as a practitioner of emotional intelligence, I bring that to you today, to your audience and to the small screen. And more of us now are working remotely. And I think this is a really important aspect, that what we deliver as EQ practitioners, for me, works just as well when we're aiming it to the camera and working with people in a remote setting around the world. So I would like to mention too, if there are people standing by that would like to raise a comment, ask something as we go along. I presume this is my first time with the Latin American team, so I don't know if you have a format that you prefer, but I'm open to being interrupted as we go, because there may be a question that everybody would like answered. And don't be afraid. And if I also say something and it's not understood by any of the audience, I'd be happy to slow it down, to say it again. I'm an Australian living in Vienna, so I understand now as a learner of German just how difficult it is to sometimes catch what people say. So
So let me go and translate all that. And that's a great practice, because we're starting practitioner tomorrow for the first time online with Latin America, and we have Josh coming over, so I'm going to be doing a lot of translating. So this is a great practice.
Wow.
Bueno, amigos, vamos a empezar a cortar un poco las frases para poderles dar la traducción, pero lo que David estaba diciéndoles es de que está súper contento, que tiene la experiencia, que lo interrumpan en el momento que quieran, que tiene la experiencia de ser extranjero viviendo en Viena y aprendiendo el idioma, y a veces hay que repetir algunas cosas, ¿no? Y bueno, que está súper contento de estar con la comunidad, que es la primera vez que está con la comunidad de nosotros, y que nos va a contar un poco de cómo es esta intersección de la inteligencia emocional con la postura de la voz, ¿no? Y el mensaje que transmitimos. So, David, I was translating and trying to summarize what you said. So, I'm going to be translating simultaneously. So, if you do some pauses, that will help me to get the idea, because I'm not at the level of the United Nations translation yet. So,
you're amazing to me, Fiorella. So, I think it's wonderful to have this experience. So, why not?
Yes,
great.
yes.
So,
I mean, it's a great brain workout.
Absolutely, and we all need that, I think, at this time too, to ultimately be stimulated. So can you see my screen? Is that the other question I have?
No, we cannot see your screen yet.
Okay, so I have started sharing, so maybe
you go to share.
Stop and start again?
Now yes.
Now we have it. Great, super.
Right.
Okay, so here we. So let's get going into it, I guess. And as I say, I'll add times for pause, and then we can also, or if I'm doing an exercise or showing something, then you can jump in as well, because I will offer a few ideas, and then we can put it together. And if people are watching, maybe give a little bit of space for them to try it in the moment, as if they're here. Because if I can't see them, but they're there, they might want to just take some moments to do that.
That's wonderful. So, lo que él nos está diciendo es que nos va a empezar a dar unas ideas y luego a través de algunas prácticas va a dar un espacio para que ustedes que están mirándonos puedan practicar. Pero antes de empezar veo que hay algunas personas conectadas. Me encantaría que me pongan sus nombres, de dónde se están conectando y que sobre todo, ¿qué les gustaría aprender acerca de su voz y la inteligencia emocional?
Great. So, to begin, Fiorella, you have introduced me, so I will not add to that, except that I was in Turandot there. The picture of the opera is me in the middle in Puccini's Turandot.
Ay, qué emoción. Bueno, dice de que ya no se va a presentar más porque ya yo lo presenté, pero que esa foto es una foto de él en la ópera Turandot de Puccini y bueno, que ya hemos contado acerca de su trayectoria, ¿no?
Great. And let's remind ourselves of the 6 seconds definition of emotional intelligence, about being smarter with our feelings. But for me, aware, intentional, and purposeful. And for me, these are 3 key words that I want us to remember today: aware, intentional, and purposeful.
Bueno, él nos está recordando esta definición de 6 seconds, ¿no? De inteligencia emocional, que es muy sencilla, que es el ser más inteligente con los sentimientos. Pero además, estos 3 aspectos de ser más consciente, más intencional y más deliberado y tener una mayor dirección, ¿no? Entonces, nos pide que por favor recordemos estos 3 puntos en lo que vamos trabajando este material.
I also love the way, you may have practitioners today, you may have people new to EQ within the 6 seconds framework. And I like to show this model because I use it a lot in my work as a coach. And in particular, today, we're going to focus on the choose yourself. So if you're not familiar with the KCG, know yourself, choose yourself, give yourself. And today we're focusing on choose.
Bueno, nos dice que si no están familiarizados con este marco de proceso de 6 seconds, son 3 partes, ¿no? La parte azul es la parte de la autogestión, la parte en color rojo es la parte de la autogestión, perdón, de la autogestión, la parte azul es la parte de la autoconciencia y la parte de color verde es la parte de la autodirección. Son diferentes aspectos que nos permiten primero conocer qué sentimos, reconocer las emociones, los patrones, y luego en la gestión es cómo ejecutamos, y siendo el color verde la parte de la autodirección. Él nos está comentando que en este momento lo que vamos a hacer es, vamos a poner toda nuestra atención en esta parte de la autogestión, es decir, cómo hacemos las cosas.
So I called this webinar Articulating Appreciation, and in English, this really means for me the way in which we use our voices to express, as it says, express in words or to pronounce, the way we use our voices to show our thanks, our recognition of somebody, or the way in which we speak to each other when we want to praise somebody, when we want to give thanks for the work that they have done.
Bueno, él ha llamado este taller articulando el aprecio, que viene a ser en castellano articular es como enunciar, ¿no? Escoger aquellas palabras que yo quiero pronunciar de una manera deliberada para articular el aprecio, y es decir, el reconocer algo o reconocerle a algo, a alguien, el valor, o que es valioso, que me ha dado algo importante.
And when we give thanks to somebody, there are multiple ways to do it. And we can write our thanks to somebody and give them a gift card. And this is often a common way to do that. Or you can give someone flowers or a gift of sorts. So when you think about these two ways, there's no voice involved. It's somebody else's words often on a card, even if you write a few words. If it's a gift, it's not something that necessarily, unless you give a gift that you made, unless you grow your own flowers, but most of us don't in that context.
Entonces lo que él dice es de que cuando uno le quiere dar gracias a alguien, puede escribirle una tarjeta, puede mandarle flores, o sea, ¿cuál es el contexto diferente en las que nosotros damos gracias, no?
So I want you to think, though, about how we can use our voices. And I've just taken two examples, stock photos from unsplash.com, of two different examples of the way people use their voices or could use their voices.
Entonces, en este contexto me gustaría que piensen de las diferentes maneras en las que las personas pueden usar su voz, ¿no? Pensando un poco en la imagen anterior, uno puede, sea hacerlo de forma no verbal o verbal. Entonces, miren las fotos que él nos cuenta, inclusive nos dice la fuente de donde las tomó, que es Unsplash, y le gustaría que piensen en algunas ideas que le suscitan estas fotos, ¿no? En términos de cómo están usando las personas su voz para comunicarse.
And so let's focus on the boy on the left. And so look at, in particular for me, I look at his facial structure. I look at his mouth and his jaw and how kind of tense everything is.
Claro. Entonces dice que se fijen en el chiquito que está como gritando en el micro, ¿no? Fíjense su expresión facial, lo tenso de su rostro, la cara que está poniendo, ¿no? Como que está así como tenso.
Yeah, and I ask you, as a general thought, what words do you think in any language, what words do you think he might be saying? Do you think that he's showing appreciation, or is he, what emotions in a way come to mind when you see this photo?
Entonces nos pregunta, ¿no? ¿Qué emociones se nos vienen a la mente cuando vemos una foto como esta? ¿Qué podría estar expresando este chiquito?
So compare that and what you think, the boy might be yelling or saying. Compare that to the picture on the right.
Dice que lo comparen a la otra figura, ¿no? En la cara del niño, la expresión del niño, que comparen ambas figuras. ¿Cuál podría ser la diferencia?
And I particularly chose this photo because, there's a boy of a similar age in this context as well. What I really love about this particular photo on the right is that there seems to be a different transaction. There would be, and so for a moment, imagine what you think is happening between these two, the man, maybe a father, maybe an uncle or a mentor figure or a teacher, talking to the younger person, the younger boy.
Claro, lo que él dice es que lo que le gusta de esta foto del niñito, en el que parece que hay un intercambio, ¿no? Que podría ser un papá, un mentor, alguna figura de soporte, ¿no? Y tiene casi la misma edad del otro niño, ¿no? Y sin embargo, qué diferentes expresiones, qué diferentes transacciones en términos de energía, quizás.
So for me, as an executive voice coach, I'm often thinking about what we're going to work through in a moment would be a series of exercises that we can do on a daily basis to think about combining how we communicate. So for me, the boy on the left it's as much as he's not tense here in the shoulders, there's tension in the photo. The two people on the right, there's a softness, there's a gentleness, there's a relaxation to this that's from their feet. You see the man's feet and the boy's feet right up, to their fingertips. And it's this combination that I want us to consider today.
Él dice que viendo estas dos fotos, ¿no? Y en lo que él hace, que él es coach de voz, ve la diferencia entre ambas posturas y entonces mediante una serie de ejercicios y de prácticas vamos a estar examinando esta transición, ¿no? Porque si bien es cierto, el chico que está en el micro gritando, de repente no tiene tensos los hombros, pero sí la cara, la expresión corporal. En cambio, en la otra foto se ve que están relajados desde los pies hasta los dedos, o sea, es una posición diferente, una postura del cuerpo diferente, ¿no?
So reflect for a moment now, and if you're watching this after this live event, maybe you take a moment to pause the video and then to go through these couple of questions in your mind. So I want you to reflect on the role of emotions in how your body though works in with your voice.
Bueno, lo que él dice es que luego pueden inclusive volver a ver el video o pausarlo. El video va a quedar por si acaso en YouTube, o sea que lo pueden volver a ver, porque esto les va a tomar un tiempo más o menos en pensar, en hacer una reflexión. En primer lugar, ¿cuál es el rol de las emociones y cómo usan su voz y su cuerpo?
And then secondly, I want you to think about how you can develop your own body and voice for your EQ. So if you're new to EQ, be more aware, intentional, and purposeful. And what role does your body and the development of your body and your voice play in your emotions?
Y en segundo lugar, el pensar, bueno, primero, ¿cuál es el rol, no? Y luego, ¿qué te gustaría lograr? ¿Cómo podrías desarrollar tu cuerpo y tu voz para sostener estos tres preceptos, digamos, que habíamos conversado al principio, ¿no? El ser más consciente, el ser más deliberado y el moverte con un propósito definido, ¿no?
And then finally, the question here really is, how can you use your voice effectively? And I always aim as a coach now to look at not my way, and I'll show you a way today, but I want you to think about today as planting a seed as to finding your way, the best way for you to use your voice. So to do that, you might think of a time where you really got it wrong, both emotionally, and then think about what happened to your voice, to your body that helped or hindered that moment. And then on the other side, a moment where things went really well and you got that job, and maybe it was because of your voice and your body together, and it was effective in that moment.
Qué interesante, porque él nos dice de cómo podemos pensar, ¿no? En ese tercer punto, de cómo usar nuestra voz de manera efectiva, pero también nos dice que él, a pesar de que nos va a enseñar una manera, no es la única manera, hay muchas maneras de hacerlo, pero cómo te puede llevar en esa transición desde donde estás hasta donde realmente te ves fluir con esa voz, ¿no? Te ves de otra manera, ¿no? Te ves en otra luz.
Good. So take this time to reflect, because ultimately, as a piece, we want to reflect because that's where we achieve an understanding. That's where we achieve that awareness. So I want you to think about it's a term I'm coining, and I spoke with the directors of 6 Seconds here in Europe, and I coined it emotional vocal intelligence. So it's just my word. I haven't spoken to Josh yet about it, but I want you to say it with EVQ. And I like the sound of that. I'm always thinking about what sounds nice. So say it with EVQ is really the point of today. And what I'm going to give you now is really the foundation of how we can speak effectively with EQ.
Wow, David, emotional voice. How is it?
Emotional vocal intelligence.
Emotional vocal intelligence. That's wonderful. And that's for the first time here for Latin America, right?
Mm-hmm. Actually, it's the first time ever. It's a first for the world, really, because it was just something I spoke to the directors about when I did some other Grow You workshops, which are along the same lines.
Well, I'm going to write it here in the chat, emotional vocal intelligence, so people don't forget about it. So, entonces, lo que me está diciendo es que, bueno, a raíz de Y además esto es creo que también habla de estas posibilidades que se inician cuando uno empieza con estos entrenamientos, ¿no? No, what I'm saying is that it's really lovely what you're saying, and it's amazing that you've done this work, because I met you when you were just certifying in London.
Mm-hmm.
And it hasn't been so long ago.
No, 2017.
Right. So, with all these tools and you grow in this direction, you start using your own emotional intelligence to create new ways of understanding. And that's exactly the core of what we do. So, súper contenta porque le digo que, bueno, nosotros nos hemos conocido en el 2017 en un entrenamiento. Esto es un paréntesis para explicarles por qué me emociona tanto esto. Y entonces ahora, luego él ha mezclado lo que él hace ya, su conocimiento previo, ¿no? Con la voz, con las emociones, ha tomado el entrenamiento de 6 Seconds y ha creado algo nuevo, ha sido el catalizador para algo nuevo, como este concepto de Emotional Vocal Intelligence, que es inteligencia emocional a través de la voz, y que además son las bases de lo que es hablar de forma efectiva, el comunicarse de forma efectiva, ¿no? Y me parece súper importante.
And the analogy, for instance, with opera is that many people think that opera singers just get up and sing. But I always explain that opera is a combination of your voice, the words on the page, the direction from the director and the conductor, what the costume department wants you to wear. And then ultimately, you have to be the magician that puts all the elements together. And then, of course, you have to bring your own emotion to that, your own feeling for those aspects as well, of the character, but also of yourself and how you can translate too. So this is where we're going to go in a minute.
Claro, para él la analogía esta con la ópera es muy válida, porque mucha gente piensa de que se trata, el cantante sale y canta, pero en realidad, claro, el tema de la ópera es mucho más complejo, ¿no? Está todo lo que está alrededor, digamos, la conducción musical, lo que se ponen, todo el contexto, lo que van a decir, la letra, la música, ¿no? Son muchos aspectos que el cantante toma en consideración para sacar de su espíritu y poner de su esencia allá afuera, ¿no? Para hacer que todo cuadre, ¿no? Digamos, si vamos a hacer otra analogía que no tenga que ver con ópera, yo podría decirles la analogía de la pizza. Tú puedes tener los mejores ingredientes para una pizza, pero sin embargo te salen mal en algún determinado momento, ¿no? Entonces, cuando tú te comunicas efectivamente, es diferente porque pones todos los elementos al servicio de esa comunicación.
Perfect. So, let's get into the first aspect. For me, is posture. So, what we mean is how we stand, how we sit. In any context. And what I want to introduce you to is this idea of positive posture.
Entonces, dice que vamos a empezar con el primer punto, y el primer punto tiene que ver con la postura. Y nos quiere presentar el concepto de postura positiva.
So to achieve a positive posture, whether you're standing or sitting now, doesn't matter. I want you to think about your shoulders being over and in alignment with your hips.
Donde estén, así estén parados o sentados, quiero que piensen en sus hombros, que estén alineados con sus caderas, o sea, no así ni así, sino alineados, ¿no? En línea recta con sus caderas.
And then your legs should be at 90 degrees and your feet should be flat on the floor, ideally.
Entonces, idealmente, debe haber un ángulo de 90 grados en sus piernas y sus pies deben estar apoyados en el piso.
Now, if you're sitting down like I am, I have a stool here. My back is not touching the back of the chair. So I'm actually just perching myself on my stool. My feet are flat and my knees are bent.
Entonces, si tienen algo con respaldar, no están así todos tirados encima del respaldar, sino que están realmente erguidos en ángulo y sus rodillas están dobladas, ¿no?
And if you're in a standing position in a conversation with somebody, the same thing applies, where you want to make sure that you have bent knees and that you are basically nice and loose in your body. The idea of positive posture is everything is in a nice alignment and at the same time not stiff and not tense.
Entonces él dice que inclusive si están de pie no tienen que armar las rodillas, sino que pueden estar flexionando ligeramente las rodillas, y la idea es de la postura positiva es que se sienta que están en una postura relajada, que no están rígidos.
But critical now, as a singer, that we want to add to this. So I'm now back in a seated position, shoulders over hips, and my knees and my feet are flat, is be careful of where you place your chin, not too high and not too low.
Entonces, sea que estén de pie o que estén levantados, en el momento, por ejemplo, un cantante siempre tiene esta conciencia de que la mandíbula no esté demasiado arriba ni demasiado abajo.
What we want to aim for is to be longer in the neck, at the back of the neck, and shorter at the front.
Entonces lo que tenemos que desear es que la parte de atrás del cuello alargarla y la parte de aquí que sea un poco más pequeña, ¿no? So how do you know that you are not like looking up or looking down?
So one way to check if you're looking up too far is that your voice will start to, you might want to cough, or you have a crack in your sound, or it might feel a little bit strained.
Ok, yo le pregunto cómo saber que no estoy muy arriba o muy abajo, ¿no? Sobre todo ahora que transmitimos en la cámara y que a veces uno pone muy arriba la cosa o muy abajo, ¿no? Él dice que cuando uno está muy arriba la voz se te puede craquear un poco o que puedes empezar a perder fuerza, se puede sentir más débil.
Familiar with James Bond as a character, he always has his chin slightly down and he would say, "I'm Bond, James Bond." And it comes from, not from, "Hi, I'm Bond, James Bond." so the chin has a sort of, it's like you're looking with maybe some sexy eyes to somebody, or you're playing a little bit, but the chin just comes down. If it's too far down, it will feel great, but of course you're looking at the ground, and that's not the point either. So we can maintain good eye contact, just for our audience to compare when you're in work mode. You know, when you're in work mode, your hands are forward, your chin is up, or you're looking down at your computer and you're typing. So when you're in an online meeting, you want to get back, you want to get some distance, and then realign your posture, and then bring your chin down. So I have my camera above at a higher level, so I'm looking sort of up, not up at the camera, but I'm just looking straight at the camera, but it's not too low and it's not too high. In that and the distance allows me just to look forward, but with the chin slightly down.
So let me translate all that. We were talking about... No, let me translate all that. Le estamos hablando de James Bond, que él piensa en James Bond, ¿no? Imagínense, James Bond no tenía muy arriba, sino era así un poquito más. Y yo les recomendaría que lo practiquen en su espejo, ¿no? Para que sepan un poco el nivel, ¿no? Lo que él decía, que muchas veces la posición de trabajo es cuando uno está así y uno está con la mandíbula hacia adelante, ¿no? Entonces, la idea es mantener una postura que sea una postura no tan rígida, que sea una postura que se sienta flexible, que se sienta cómoda, que se sienta uno y que transmita, creo que, confianza y seguridad, ¿no? Entonces, I'm saying that also this posture should, project this confidence and that you feel safe and confident, right?
Yeah, just not tense. So it's not a stiff, it's really a kind of a loose thing, because then we're going to add, for instance, breath on top of that.
Entonces so es importante que no estemos rígidos, porque si a eso le agregamos la respiración, que es el segundo elemento que él va a agregar ahora, se hace una gran diferencia.
And so our main foundation for our voices is our breath. And when our breath sits right, it comes down to our bellies, like in yoga, like in Tai Chi, meditation. And we want to try to achieve a version of this. It's a version in our everyday speaking lives as well.
Es importante considerar la respiración. Es una especie de respiración un poco similar a la del yoga o el Tai Chi. Es una respiración más alineada, más coherente, y es importante que la integremos dentro de este proceso, ¿no?
So we see people online, this is great. Maybe you're following in your space now. So I want you to, as a small technique, I want you to think about breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth, and allowing your belly in this positive posture just to move from down in this solar plexus and lower belly region.
Entonces, lo que nos está pidiendo es que inhalemos por la nariz y exhalemos y que tengamos conciencia de la respiración en la región del solar plexo, ¿no? Del plexo solar, esta parte, y luego también teniendo conciencia que se podría inflar un poquito esta área, ¿no? Entonces, inhalar y luego exhalar, no demasiado lento, simplemente a un ritmo un poco normal, pero conscientemente, teniendo conciencia de ese aire que ingresa, ¿no? Y que vuelve a salir.
This forms a real foundation then for when we want to actually vocalize our tone. So good breath, good posture means that we can speak the same, we can go down with our tone, or we can go up.
Entonces él dice que esta buena postura y esta buena respiración significa de que se nos escuche y que podamos hablar en una manera estable, ¿no? I think, David, that will be like do, 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 do. You'll have to, it's not a fa or, okay, it's a do, 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 do. All right. Entonces,
yeah, and of course I'm thinking for the English language in this content as well, but it's about being ultimately, I'm sure even in, in Brazilian Portuguese or in other languages of Latin American, Spanish, there's moments where someone can sound monotone. So in English, we want to avoid the, hello, my name is David Corcoran moment.
Right. So él dice de que en general está pensando un poco en las tonalidades del idioma inglés, pero en general en todos nuestros lenguajes lo que queremos evitar es sonar pues monotonales, ¿no? Ta, 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 ta. Si alguna vez se han metido en esos webinars donde ta, 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 acá has dormido, hay que tener cierta fluctuación, ¿no?
Yeah, so we want to, I mean, and maybe romantic languages have an advantage that they do move up and down. But I guess the point to concentrate on for your audience is to think about, are you being deliberate? This is the intentional part of our EQ definition. Are you being intentional? And I'd also encourage you to think about, as an added extra, now that I have heard you, Fiorella, as well, thinking about moments to slow down, and then moments as you do. It's a naturally fast language, like German as well. We can use it and think of it like a car. We're going down the freeway, we have a bit of a roadblock, then we get a green light. And so we want to move with our tone up and down. So we might go, hi, my name is David. Welcome to this workshop. Today I want to talk about a serious topic. And so I'm experimenting and moving up, down, and at times I'm staying the same, because vocal variety, the movement, is the difference.
Claro, lo importante, lo que él comenta, es usar esta inteligencia emocional para ver si tengo la variedad vocal, ¿no? Y alejarme de esa monotonalidad. Entonces, y si realmente estoy siendo intencional, ¿no? Lo que él comenta es que de repente las lenguas romance, como, ¿no?, el inglés, el portugués, el francés, el italiano, tienen cierta ventaja en esto, ¿no? Pero en todo caso, lo que debe ser importante para nosotros es mirar la intención, ¿no? Y aquí yo me pregunto, porque le voy a preguntar a él, este ejercicio de, generalmente quienes hacemos estos webcasts, estos webinars, yo no vuelvo a ver mis transmisiones, por ejemplo. Lo evito, si acaso, ¿no? David, I was telling that maybe a good exercise is to look at you, to look up your recordings, to hear your recordings. And to me, that's an exercise that I avoid, honestly. But once I have tons of videos in YouTube, we've been doing these transmissions for months, and, podcasts and stuff like that. And I avoid, it's just, I avoid it. And that might be normal, because I know of a lot of people that don't like to see themselves on TV and things like that. So what is the best way to go onto this exploration without, without this resistance?
Yeah. Certainly, someone like myself, with my musical training, what I'm listening for, in essence, is what sounds does a person make when they speak on a video or a film? What sounds are they making that are a habit or are a constant, not necessarily in the moment. So we want authenticity when we speak to people. We want to create an emotional connection and our rapport, especially as coaches or as speakers. And so, yeah, I'm looking for those tones where, in Australia, where I come from, everyone will say, "G'day, how are ya? Isn't it a great day? Are we having a good time today?" And every sentence or question ends with an upward inflection. And it's not intentional, it's a habit. It becomes annoying to the listener. So I, as your audience, if I'm coaching you, and if you're coaching yourself, look for those things. And it could be a gesture too. I'll get onto gesture in a minute, but it could really be, people that do this all the time and they're just sort of pacing or they're walking back and forth for no good reason. Vocally, the same thing happens when we're not aware or intentional around. So even if we get the awareness, the next step is to say, right, how can I be more purposeful with my text? When I say, "Hello, my name is David Corcoran," I have a formula that I use. But if I said every single sentence, just like that, "Welcome to today's presentation," it starts to sound like a problem, and your brain picks up on this problem.
Bueno, yo creo que respondió mi pregunta perfectamente. Entonces me dice, claro, que la idea de este ejercicio, aunque puede ser incómodo, no es, entiendo, no es buscar, no es criticarte y destruirte, ¿no? Sino buscar ciertos patrones de cosas, muletillas, sonidos que usas y que de repente escapan tu línea de conciencia, ¿no? Entonces, buscar eso para darte cuenta si realmente es intencionalmente lo que quieres estar comunicando, ¿no? A mí, por ejemplo, me pasa que cuando me escucho, yo digo exacto muchas veces. Entonces ya estoy en esa exploración y al tercer exacto me aburro y me voy de la grabación. Yo misma me voy, ¿no? O sea, ya no escucho el replay. Pero me parece interesante, el punto de él es, ¿por qué necesito esta información? Porque necesito moverme con propósito y realmente, claro, si yo hablo todo en el mismo tono, todo, va a llegar un momento que no hay forma, no voy a comunicar nada, nadie me va a escuchar, ¿no? Y ni yo me voy a soportar. Entonces, esa creo que es la idea de esto, ¿no? De esta práctica de escucharte, identificar esas muletillas. That was awesome. That was really good. I will go back. I will go back to do that.
Great. So, and what we want to add, which is really a powerful combination, of course, is body posture, our breath, and then, of course, our tone. And look, we all are born with the voices that we have, but we can control our gesture.
Bueno, dice que la otra parte, el otro elemento súper importante son los gestos, porque todos hemos nacido con la voz que hemos nacido, pero los gestos es algo en lo que podemos trabajar también.
And what I've seen with the people that I've worked with over the last 3 or so years now is that when we pair the right gesture with our hands and our body, it actually changes the vocal qualities of our sounds. Not only the tone, the up, down will stay the same, but the actual quality, the finesse, the really fine essence of our voice.
Dice que lo que él ha descubierto en esos últimos 3, 4 años de trabajar con las personas desde otra perspectiva es que cuando cambiamos los gestos, también cambiamos ciertos aspectos de la fineza, de aquellas cosas muy sutiles que tiene la voz y que tienen que ver con la calidad, ¿no? de esta voz que estoy transmitiendo.
And so I know that, every culture has a set of gestures that they use. So what I'm not suggesting today is, I prefer myself an open gesture. So in Europe here, certainly in Australia, this is open, this is closed, and this is, for me, a no-no. I never try to point at anybody. Even if I'm angry and I feel I want to express that, I try not to point. And I see, in Austria, for instance, you see a lot of this kind of finger pointing, and it's not good. So I would say, for your audience, think about what are the open gestures, what are the closed gestures, and what are the aggressive gestures, and aim for the open ones to influence your EVQ.
Él está diciendo qué importante esto de los gestos, ¿no? Nosotros hacemos muchos gestos en nuestra cultura, ¿no? En los diferentes países hacemos muchos gestos. Entonces, él está contando de que para él, viniendo desde Australia, pues él tenía ciertos gestos en los que tiene gestos abiertos, o sea, miren mis manos, tiene gestos cerrados y tiene los gestos que él no usa, que son los no, no, no. Y pensando un poco, él nos está contando que en Austria este gesto es un gesto muy común, ¿no? Debes hacer esto, haz tal cosa, ¿no? Y son gestos que él evita, ¿no? O sea, de donde trata de mantenerse totalmente... Y de hecho, piensen también en o sea, pensando en la región, ¿no? Pensando cuántas personas hablan así, ¿no? Y te dicen, o te señalan, ¿no? O te dicen esto, o te hacen estos gestos, ¿no? Entonces, qué importantes son los gestos también para comunicar dentro de todo este gran esquema de la inteligencia emocional vocal, ¿no?
When you think about those two pictures from before, the boy with the microphone, he'd have a real tense finger kind of something gesture, whereas the man and the boy, it was soft. Even though he was patting him, it was open and soft-handed.
Claro, entonces piensen en esas fotos que nos enseñó al principio, que el niño está así, o sea, de hecho no vemos el dedo, pero podríamos imaginar que si viéramos la parte de abajo de la foto, veríamos de repente un dedo así o un gesto cerrado, ¿no? O un gesto agresivo. La otra foto en contraste tenía unos gestos mucho más relajados, ¿no? Entonces lo que él dice que es importante el analizar nuestros propios gestos dentro de este análisis de cómo hablamos y tomar el tiempo de ver si alguno de nuestros gestos inconscientemente quizás están transmitiendo algo que no queremos transmitir, ¿no?
But of course, it all comes down to our word choice. And this is one of the final pieces of articulating our appreciation. Now, again, in every language, you have words, and words have a real power. And we know that from our feelings wheel. We know that from, increasing emotional literacy, as is the topic for 6 seconds, that there's a difference between sadness in one culture and another. But a great book that I've read called Words Can Change Your Brain highlights that even within one culture, what one person in one family even thinks of as sad could be different to the next person. So we each have our own kind of meaning of vocabulary. So our words, therefore, are very powerful, both for us and therefore what words we choose to express to others. So when you put it all together, your EVQ is very much influenced by your word choice. And I know this as a foreign language teacher of English here in Vienna, that sometimes if I speak with too many Australian words, they're not understood by my Austrian counterparts.
Él dice que la otra parte de esta idea de la inteligencia emocional vocal, por supuesto, son las palabras. Y que el significado, las palabras tienen poder, las palabras son extremadamente poderosas, y que el significado de la experiencia subjetiva de cada palabra puede ser diferente para personas hasta de la misma familia, ¿no? And you mentioned a book you read.
Yeah, Words Can Change Your Brain. I can pop it into the chat if I have a chat option.
Yes, please. Entonces él leyó este libro de que dice las palabras pueden cambiar tu cerebro, y que le pareció interesante esta idea de que realmente dentro de una misma familia las palabras pueden tener un efecto diferente para cada persona. Entonces, forman parte de esta idea de la inteligencia emocional vocal como tal, porque es una especie de construcción de lo que es la comunicación, y en particular la comunicación, no cualquier comunicación, la comunicación efectiva, la comunicación que nos permite cumplir las metas que tenemos, ¿no? You put it in the chat? Oh, let me...
Absolutely. I couldn't put it into the comments chat, but I put it into the chat. But we could provide, a link afterwards. It's on Amazon, certainly.com, if you have access to that for the audience. And I think it's available in multiple languages. 2 professors wrote the book. It's also about compassionate communication. It's probably it's probably a Grow You session for a whole nother day. And certainly I used the book to talk about our values, which I did for a Grow You here in America, I guess, for the worldwide group as well. So people could check out that particular Grow You if they have access to that, or get in touch with you, Fiorella. We can we can certainly provide a link or connect.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
This combination that for me is important. But we have to add, just let me get to the next slide. We need to add heart to all of this.
Right. That's the compassion element that you just mentioned, right?
Mm-hmm. So what I mean by this in this context as well is that your EVQ is influenced by not only your intention of word and your technique and your body and your breathing, the tone that you choose, but we lack authenticity when we don't speak from our heart. And this is where, for instance, the development of your noble goal within 6 seconds is a really beautiful thing. My noble goal that you helped me with, Fiorella, is to provide a space where people can turn up as the best version of themselves. And it's still my noble goal, because every time I come into a coaching, I come in with my heart, listening with my ears and my eyes, and giving my best to that person. And that means my vocal best in terms of my delivery, especially as a language teacher, for instance.
Right. Bueno, él dice que un elemento importantísimo en toda esta ecuación, porque claro, tenemos la técnica de la postura, tenemos la dicción, tenemos las palabras, pero una parte fundamental es lo que traemos en el corazón, ¿no? La intención, aquello que en 6 Seconds llamamos la meta noble, cuál es el propósito, cuál es el deseo de hacer esto. Entonces, él viene dentro de estas interacciones con toda esta idea de inteligencia emocional vocal, pero esta inteligencia emocional vocal está energizada por esta meta noble, por este sentido de propósito. ¿Por qué estoy comunicando esto y desde qué lugar de mi corazón, de mi propósito estoy comunicando este mensaje, ¿no? That's really beautiful. That's really thoughtful, because communication is just not communicate. I mean, it has to have these 3 elements that you mentioned at the beginning, which is the awareness and the intention and the purpose.
Yep. And then in the body, the breath, the tone, and that's where, that's where I love the romantic languages, as I said. And I think too, there's an advantage. I teach an international class in this kind of topic as well at a university here. And it's always the Spanish, it's always the Brazilians, and to some extent, sometimes the French and the Italians that really bring the life to the class, and they bring the heart in spades. And that's what I really love. And then it's just about combining it with some technique then to create a great package for a speaker, especially for a presenter or a trainer or a coach.
Él dice que en su experiencia como profesor de lenguaje, se le enseña inglés y tiene mucho contacto con hablantes de lenguas romances, ¿no? En Europa, tanto el francés, el italiano, español, portugués, y entonces siente que este elemento de corazón está presente, ¿no? Este fuego de comunicar, de los gestos y todo, ¿no? Pero obviamente pues hay que refinar la parte esta de la intención, ¿no? Y creo que el encontrar patrones, ¿no? Because sometimes all this passion make us neglect other aspects like posture, like or using these gestures because these are gestures that are very, they can be felt as a threat sometimes. I mean, we just move too much, and we all know someone in the English world that is called, oh, that's the Latin person, or that's the very passionate person, because we move a lot, right? And sometimes it's not quite intentional. It's just a habit.
So I love the movement. I think the movement is great. Like, give me something to work with. It's good. And then, as you say, as long as the movement doesn't become aggressive, or our emotional intelligence here, our EVQ is also about how do I need to relate to somebody else? So if I am coaching a Spanish person, I can be more dramatic, to put a word on it, as an opera guy, right? Whereas for Austrians, it's too much. My way of just general being sometimes is too much for them. So I need to sort of tone it down, and I'm respectful then of culture and of boundary. But I'm using, it's a version of this, of using the right kind of, this is the choose yourself aspect of the model. It's really choosing what do I need in this moment? And what am I trying to achieve in that sense too?
Claro, además calza muy bien, ¿no? Con esta parte del modelo de inteligencia emocional de Six Ecos, ¿no? La parte de elígete. Entonces, ¿qué es lo que necesito en este momento que calce, ¿no? Como él dice, la comunicación que él puede tener a nivel de coach, de repente con una persona que viene de una lengua romance, no es la misma que va a tener con un austriaco. Hay cosas, hay movimientos que tienen que ir en concordancia y en coherencia con mi propósito, con el mensaje, con la interacción. ¿Qué quiero lograr de esta interacción? ¿No? ¿Qué es lo que quiero transmitir?
Absolutely. So we can put it to the test, and what I'll do is I have multiple lines on here, but as we're going through, I might say the line, and maybe you can say it too, Fiorella, in a translation that's applicable. And what we want to do is demonstrate, I guess, a vocal color. So put it together. We're in our positive posture. You can take a breath before you start. No singing. It's just a speaking activity.
No se preocupen, no se vayan.
Everyone joining us can say the word too, or say your phrase, say my phrase, whatever you'd like to do in this moment. But I want you to think about experimenting. So people might stiffen up and try and say, thank you, or they might loosen up and say, that was amazing. You know, whatever the words and phrases are that will ping up. So I've got three slides. These are just common words of appreciation, of general thanks.
Ok, yo voy a estarles leyendo las frases, les voy a decir las frases, lo que les pide es que se pongan en la postura positiva, ya saben, los hombros relajados, una respiración, que se preparen para hacer el ejercicio, y yo lo voy a repetir para ustedes, acuérdense del tamaño de la altura de la mandíbula, ok.
Good. So, thank you.
Gracias.
I am grateful.
I'm grateful. Estoy agradecida.
You are an inspiration.
Eres inspirador, inspiradora.
You make me happy.
Me haces feliz.
Well done.
Bien hecho.
You're so great.
Te pasaste.
My sincere thanks.
Mis sinceras gracias, o mi sincero agradecimiento.
You light up my life.
Ay, alumbras mi vida.
You've been very helpful.
Ha sido muy, muy útil, gracias.
You're the best.
Eres el mejor, eres la mejor.
So you hear from me in English that I change and sometimes I go up, sometimes I go down, sometimes I add a little bit of gesture. These are just off the top of my head right now. But of course,
you have to give me feedback because I'm the only one doing it here, so they can give feedback. Okay.
What was lovely is that you copied what I did in that sense. So when I went down, like my sincere thanks, so a word like sincere is a more formal word in English. And so I can say thank you and I can say thank you. But my sincere thanks is a little more on the formal side. So we do class kind of phrases more formal, informal in English.
Right. Yeah, there's some phrases that in Spanish sound different, a little bit different. Like my sincere thanks will be mi agradecimiento sincero.
Yeah, and you might write that, but you might also say that in a speech if it's for a political party. Whereas gracias grazie can be for the at a restaurant or somewhere light and easy for a friend, who you know quite well. So These are all common words, and then we have words for help and support. So I really appreciate your support.
Realmente agradezco tu apoyo.
That was very kind of you.
Ay, eso fue muy amable de tu parte.
Thank you for always being there for me.
Gracias por estar siempre ahí para mí.
You're my best friend.
Eres mi mejor amiga.
Now, notice too that, like, when that one you came up, notice you smiled, Fiorella. So there's another little tip for everybody. Of course, when it's heartfelt and we smile, you know, and you think of your best friend, if you're doing this at home, think of that person and say that. But even better, you know, maybe rehearse it and then go and tell them and get that feedback from them as well.
Right. Yeah, because it'll be pretty weird that I say you're my best friend.
Exactly. And this is where, but we come across these sorts of examples where it does sound weird, or we know intuitively, this is the EQ part, we know intuitively that person didn't mean what they said, whether it's positive, negative, or what. It just is, there's a discord between the words and then the delivery. And I focus with people on the delivery side to bring about, even if it's an element of character in the beginning, if it's done often enough, it becomes second nature. We all learned to walk. It became a habit. We all learned to speak. And sometimes we have to unlearn some things that are not taking us in the right direction.
Absolutely. Miren, qué importante, ¿no? Él dice de que él trabaja en la parte esta, por ejemplo, del hablar, ¿no? La parte deliberada, la parte que a veces uno que lo hace tanto que se convierte en como un hábito, ¿no? Se convierte en algo natural. Entonces, a veces hay que desaprender para volver a aprender, porque resulta que este tema, y es aquí donde creo que se unen muchos conceptos que hemos trabajado el día de hoy, que la inteligencia emocional vocal tiene que ver con que mi mensaje tiene que estar en concordancia, o sea, mi mensaje tiene que estar en concordancia con la manera como entrego mi mensaje, con el delivery, ¿no? Entonces, eso es lo que él hace. Él trabaja en esta parte para que las dos cosas sean concordantes. ¿Cuántas veces uno ha visto o uno ha escuchado a alguien que te dice algo y tú sabes por dentro que no te está diciendo la verdad, que no está siendo sincero, ¿no? O de repente que hay algo que todavía no te cierra, ¿no? Entonces, a veces desde parte del comunicador no hay esa conciencia y yo creo que el receptor siempre tiene un cierto radar para esas cosas, ¿no? Nosotros sabemos cuando nos están mintiendo, ¿no?
La mayoría I'll put up the rest of these and then, let's just help. I'll just say, and then I've got one more slide of a few more, and we can just say a couple owing to the time and then come towards the end of the webinar. So just imagine too, this is at work, maybe in a formal situation, you helped me right when I needed help most. It's a longer phrase, but it has that kind of a real serious intention.
Claro, él dice que esta frase, por ejemplo, tú me ayudaste cuando más lo necesité. Tiene una intención más larga, es una frase más larga y that's interesting in a phrase like this. How do you sustain your breath so you don't drop the sentence at the end?
No, and that's really important. So that's where breath, you helped me right when I needed help most. And we go, right to the end. And that's another musical analogy.
If you drop it, it will feel totally different. The message will feel different.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's why we need a good breath right down here. That's why if you're, with EQ, we know that, if we come home and we're angry, then we lash out. We say something we don't mean. And I love Josh's example in the EQ practitioner where he talked about the way he relates to his kids when he came home from work. I now use that all the time. Dad's had a hard day. How are you? I just need 10 minutes. And I bring myself back down. And it's by both my body, my breath. It might be releasing the tension. It could be exercise and movement. But it means that my vocal color is not stinging. It doesn't whip. The sound doesn't whip. And therefore, the breath is more sustained as well. And it's really the breath control, I think, that is really crucial to us having good EVQ.
Él dice que esto de la respiración es importante porque yo le decía esta frase, ¿cómo puede cambiar si yo dejo caer las últimas sílabas? Y entonces pierdo fuerza cuando te estoy diciendo, tú me ayudaste cuando más lo necesité. Que no es lo mismo de tú me ayudaste cuando más lo he necesitado. Y yo mantengo, ¿no?, el aire. Entonces él dice que esto tiene que ver también realmente con la manera como yo navego mis propias emociones, ¿no? Mi cansancio, mi exasperación, el hecho de que de repente a veces, pone un ejemplo de Josh, del curso de Practitioner, que nos contaba cuando llegas a tu casa, llegas muy cansado, muy cargado y tienes a los chicos que se te tiran encima y te dicen, hey, papi, mami, vamos a hacer tal cosa, y tú, ay, por favor, necesito 10 minutos, ¿no? O sea, ¿cómo navegas eso y cómo haces el control de tu respiración para dar ese mensaje y que ese mensaje salga realmente como tú quieres transmitirlo, ¿no?
Great. So the last section is really for the workplace. So I'll just bring up the phrases and maybe we can just pick one or two. And again, in a workplace, we're often in a more formal environment. So, you might say, we appreciate your innovative thinking, and it has a more downward slant because in the workplace, we often do achieve or want to achieve a more serious tone. And one more, I want to thank you publicly for what you did. You did an excellent job.
Claro, él quiere usar estas que son un poco más formales, que son para el centro de trabajo, ¿no? Y dice, por ejemplo, quiero agradecerte públicamente, hiciste un trabajo excelente.
So when I work with people too, I often like to think about word choice. And this is where, you could take one word and change it, but it changes the entire kind of vocal setup. And that's really the main point, I guess, in my thinking about this term EVQ, is that we want to be intentional. And so it's putting all the elements really together.
Claro, la idea con estas prácticas, y claro, pues de repente pueden verse un poco diferentes en cómo las pronunciamos en inglés, pero la idea con estas prácticas es que encuentren un punto, creo que de balance en este concepto que me parece tan interesante de inteligencia emocional vocal, ¿no? O sea, cómo transmitimos. Y la idea tiene que ver con esto más que nada, ¿no?
And you've been helpful. So just remember, I love this other model that we've used in 6 seconds. I often say, don't be fat. So, don't be feeling, acting, thinking, because sometimes we do lash out and then we're kind of lacking in that. But we want to be the bottom one. We want to be more energized.
Okay. Oh, ok. So feeling, thinking and acting. Ok. Él propone entonces esta combinación. Esto es algo que nosotros usamos en 6 Seconds como una estrategia que, bueno, es un poco larga de explicar, pero tiene que ver con alinear pensamientos, emociones y acciones, pero también ingresar al cambio de cualquiera de estos elementos desde cualquier lugar. Es decir, no necesariamente tengo que empezar por algún lado. Sin embargo, él propone algunas fórmulas para intencionalmente cambiar esa energía a veces en la comunicación, ¿no? Entonces él dice, don't be fat, o sea, no uses esta combinación primero si quieres lograr una comunicación intencional. O sea, no entres primero por el feeling y luego hagas algo y después algo de lo que te arrepientas, ¿no? En todo caso, él propone FTA. FTA significa percibe la emoción, piensa deliberadamente, que tiene que ver con esta parte del cómo me comunico, la forma como entrego el mensaje, y luego actúa y crea tu mensaje, ¿no?
And if you compare to what I said before, the feeling is our heart. That's what's coming through here and the connection. Thinking is about the body and how we're planning to execute on our sentence or on our conversation with somebody, so that when we do act, we come with our EVQ. We're able to speak in a way that matches and mirrors, as a coaching idea, matches and mirrors our conversation partner in a really positive way.
Right. Lo que él dice es que con este marco de proceso lo que podemos hacer es traer este elemento del corazón y en la intención, pero también utilizar el elemento del cuerpo, ¿no? O sea, la parte del pensar de, ok, la postura, toda la parte técnica, digamos, ¿no? Al combinarla, me permite tener una comunicación poderosa, ¿no? Me permite realmente meterme dentro de ese marco de inteligencia emocional vocal, ¿no?
So the last idea to leave you with is just feedback or feed forward. So I'll just go through the slides and then maybe that gives you a chance to think, because we have 2 options. And so often with feedback, delivered badly, vocally, doesn't work. delivered well can be better, but feed forward is often a good result. So the idea of feedback is it sounds harsh, it doesn't change behavior, it can escalate the situation, and it looks at the past. Whereas feed forward is about being future focused, generates ideas, and it can be delivered, I think, with vocal ease, because I'm not telling someone off or giving them a negative. I'm simply saying, for the future, this would be nice.
David, you're so creative. I mean, this concept, it's genius, because we all the time we talk about feedback, and
this is not my concept. This is Marshall Goldsmith's concept. I have to say.
I love it. It's just because oftentimes we're always talking about feedback, and no matter how open you are to feedback, it's never what you want to hear, right? Yeah. You always have something to but I did it because, right? But feed forward is really, esta idea de feed forward, it's really much more positive in a way, much more enlightening. Entonces, el concepto de feedback contra feed forward, ¿no? Él dice de que muchas veces el feedback, aunque sea con las mejores intenciones, puede resultar en escalamientos, le molesta a la gente, te deja un poco, ¿no? Sensible. En cambio, el feed forward se orienta al futuro, genera ideas y además crea esta vocalidad, este confort en la parte vocal también, ¿no? Because I imagine, and it's like, I think it's, in my case, I feel it like that. When I'm going to give feedback, there's some kind of people that I cannot give feedback to. And I already abandon the idea because I can't. Because the moment I try to give feedback, and I might rethink this and say, you know what, I'm going to give you feed forward. So they become very resistant and they're in denial, and they never... I, in particular, know someone that I want to give feedback about something, and this person goes off with something. Oh, but have you done this? No, but I did this. It's impossible.
And it becomes a vocal match too. So the idea of a vocal ease is that if I say, this is not even referring to the past, but it's really planting. Marshall Goldsmith talks about it in an activity where, let's say you've got a board of people or a group. We're not going to talk about what happened, but we're going to give that person all 2 ideas each about what they could not necessarily do next time, but what they could just, where to go from here. So if you've got a project or an idea, let's try and do this. Let's try and do that. Can we move the needle stick now in this direction? And so we're not telling that person off, but if you've thought about your feed forward, maybe the direction you move the project in incorporates the changes that you want to see without saying this was wrong. Because you're simply saying, let's make this go this way. And by doing that, it incorporates, So then no one loses face, no one feels slighted, no one feels put out. And that's the problem with feedback generally. Delivered well, it's usually delivered with good vocal results. But that takes a lot of practice, and most of us, even I, wouldn't be necessarily the best at that. That's really, maybe for a very small minority of people that can deliver feedback without offending people.
Right. And also there's a very small number of people that can receive feedback, because that's another position is a receptor too, Sometimes, the best message with the best intention, it's gonna fall on flat ears. Entonces decíamos, ¿no? Es interesante, ¿no? Esto ya se abre a otro tema para otro día. Yo creo this is another whole webinar about how to do these 2 things, Tiene que ver con esto del feedback y del feed forward, que son ideas súper importantes en cómo me comunico vocalmente y cómo puedo canalizar esta energía en dar un mensaje, ¿no? En 6 Seconds tenemos una manera de hacerlo que se llama 2 estrellas y un deseo. 2 stars and a wish. Entonces, después de y lo trabajamos mucho, por ejemplo, también con educadores, ¿no? 2 estrellas y un deseo, 2 cosas que te gustaron y una que te gustaría que a futuro se haga, ¿no? O se mejore. Entonces, funciona muy bien porque ya tiene hasta otro nombre y yo creo que hasta la carga química del cerebro lo recibe de otra manera, ¿no? Definitivamente hay una actitud muy defensiva respecto al feedback, ¿no?
Absolutely, yeah. So my little phrase here, just to remember that when we're fixed in our body or in our mind, in our heart, that often creates fear. Many things can create fear, but in terms of our speaking and our voices, if I'm in a posture that's fixed, or if I've sat too long in one way, or if I don't move as a public speaker, it creates fear, both for me and then maybe for the audience. But flow, this idea of when we're in flow, but psychologically creates freedom in what we do.
That's beautiful. Bueno, él dice que básicamente cuando se trata de voz, desde su experiencia trabajando con el cuerpo y esta dinámica de la voz, todo lo que es rígido crea miedo. Entonces, ahí también creo esta idea de que no solamente las emociones se originan desde adentro, sino que también el ambiente y el espacio que yo condiciono va a tener una influencia en mis emociones. Entonces, todo lo que es rígido, ya el cuerpo rígido, ya una actitud rígido, crea una sensación de miedo, ¿no? Y sin embargo, cuando empiezo a fluir, cuando me suelto un poco, también genero un espacio donde puedo sentir libertad, donde puedo tener donde puedo sentir una comodidad, una facilidad de estar diferente, ¿no? Y eso es súper importante cuando están comunicando su mensaje.
So thank you, and really the last thing to say is that take responsibility for your communication, and if we do it with emotional intelligence, as is offered by 6 Seconds, then of course we come to EVQ. But as I say here, be in the right posture, and get yourself into what works for you, what works for your character. Choose your words well, and that's language specific as well, because all words are different. And then when you vocalize, do it from your heart, because then in combination, then I think you can be very effective.
Esto me parece poderosísimo. This is very powerful. In all this that we've been talking about, it goes into take responsibility for your communication. It's not a given. It's not something fixed. It's something you can always work on. ¿No? Yeah. Vemos un poco lo que tiene él atrás de él, el banner ese, que es el modelo de 6 Seconds, ¿no? Esto está constantemente dando vueltas y nosotros podemos tomar responsabilidad por cómo nos comunicamos, ¿no? A menudo se dice de que es responsabilidad del hablante hacerse entender, ¿no? Y hay otras personas que dicen, no, yo hablo como puedo, hablo lo que quiero y ya tú ves qué es lo que entiendes. Y yo creo que es una postura que el día de hoy no nos conviene, ¿no? Es una postura que como sociedad, que comunidad, tenemos que tener responsabilidad por el mensaje, ¿no? Fíjense lo que está pasando en el mundo, lo que está pasando con las redes sociales, con los medios de comunicación. O sea, ¿dónde está el sentido de responsabilidad? Pero siempre podemos empezar cambiando nuestro entorno, cambiando en nuestra familia, en nuestras relaciones más inmediatas. Y lo que él nos recomienda es, escojan la postura. O sea, lo que está diciendo es que el cuerpo es importante, el mensaje no es solamente algo que sale de la voz y que está totalmente desconectado de mi cuerpo físico, ¿no? Escojan una postura en cuanto a respiración, en cuanto a posición de hombros, con respecto a las caderas, una postura que les dé esta presencia, ¿no? Y luego escojan sus palabras, ¿no? Las palabras tienen poder. Y piensen que están vocalizando, si bien es cierto, con las estructuras armadas en el cerebro, con la energía del corazón, con la energía del propósito. Esto pone en línea estas 3 cuestiones que habíamos conversado al principio, ¿no? La conciencia, la intención y el propósito deliberado. I think I summarized it.
Amazing. Sounds good. And I think from the chat, I can see bits and pieces. I often have to translate Brazilian Portuguese in my work as well, so I can see that people have found this very interesting. And,
yeah.
Well, so
I'm putting some comments and they want to know if it's going to be recorded. Sí, va a estar grabado. Esto queda en el YouTube de 6 Seconds. Muchísimas gracias, Cecilia. Tenemos a Ana Sofía de Colombia, a Jorge de Perú.
Wonderful. So, I mean, we have a few minutes, I guess. I'm happy to take any questions. If someone has a question, and you can translate for me. the question, then yeah. It takes work, it takes time, and building the platform for yourself starts with the body, and then the breath, and then the voice, and then the word. So see each part as a sort of building block to create this lovely, emotionally intelligent version of yourself. And I think that's really crucial. And somebody like Josh Friedman and yourself, Fiorella, from what I have seen of your work, I see this emanating from you, and it speaks in your vocal variety. It speaks in your vocal tone, and we have within 6 seconds wonderful role models. The first Grow You I saw with Annabelle Jensen, I nearly wanted to reach in and just hug her and grab her. She was so in tune, not only with her topic, but really with the way she delivers it. It's so inspiring, for me to see that what I think about as a singer and bring to people, I see it in action with many. So thank you for this privilege in that way.
And there's this element of thank you very much for your words. Is this element of self-compassion that sometimes, like I'm brutal when, like I said, I don't like my recordings, and I know I should go into those to try to find some things to correct, but I technically I think I'm horrible. I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear about it. But I never find the space and the time, because sometimes I say, you know what, I'm going to start recording little capsules and then say, what are the things that I'm currently saying over and over, and going back to my Toastmasters, stuff like that I have to do. I'm like, no, you know what? No. But I think this is very important, especially all the coaches, the teachers, everybody has a message.
Yeah. Or ask someone who you really trust. So, my wife will ask me when she's singing in the opera, how does it sound? And I'm one of her many. She's got a few trusted people that can give you that advice too. So I always feel that, when someone says, wow, you touched me in some way, or your singing did this, or your speech delivered that, then I also know that I've achieved that. So don't be too critical in that sense. If you do the video recordings, I think it's a great idea, absolutely. And I do look at my own footage from time to time, not all the time, because otherwise we go too deep and we get too fixed, and we don't have that freedom. But what you want to develop is your own vocal way, in the sense of, develop an introduction that you can rely on for your videos. Hello, my name is David. I'm doing a video today. Here's my topic. And then you have a similar vocal tone for that, so that you're not trying to recreate the wheel every time you work, but just watch over time that those videos, don't also cause you to, become fixed. And so I've got this headphone set on, and I do a lot of online teaching. I know, for instance, that this is tiring, and in this room, I'm much better to do what you've got and get a microphone and a speaker. But because I've just switched my office, I'm now in this space, I haven't had the time to set up my tech. And so your tech is very much an important part of what you're doing as well. So a little microphone, if you feel like you're pushing, the microphone really helps over, say, an hour. Whereas if you've got a short meeting or you want to be hands-free, go with a Bluetooth headset. All these little changes now that we have access to can also help your vocal dynamic as well.
Right. Bueno, él dice que toda la parte dinámica, la parte del tech es importante, que la parte de grabarte, por ejemplo, puede ser interesante, no para ponerse uno demasiado obsesionado con el tema, pero sí para que veas tu crecimiento en el tiempo y para que no empieces a inventar tu crecimiento cada vez que hagas un video. O decir, bueno, voy a mirarme sino que ya más o menos tienes algunas cosas que tú sabes que haces bien y de ahí en adelante sigues construyendo, ¿no? Le voy a preguntar a David si tiene algunos talleres por quienes están interesados. David, will you have some workshops that people can jump in, like a series of workshops to work voice and stuff like that? Are you doing something like that?
Yeah, I definitely am planning on things for the rest of this year. With Corona now, I do some of those things, or have done them in Vienna, and now moving, of course, more online. If the audience has access to the rest of the 6 seconds events. I have done, I think, 2 or 3 other Grow You workshops that are similar. They are all of a vocal variety in that sense. And, you know, people want to find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best channel where eventually I will be advertising my workshops or online sessions that people could join. And I'm also just, you know, happy to connect with people. So if they have a question,
if you can send me that information for the people that want to take the workshop in English, I can definitely share it. Would you like to write in the main chat your LinkedIn and how people can reach you, please?
Yes, I'll just find the right LinkedIn feed thing. So I'm sure there's many David Corcorans in the world, but the black and white beard is the giveaway for that. I mean, it's just my name for LinkedIn, but and my picture. The picture that you've seen is my headshot if people are there, but I can get the proper connection here, I hope.
Oh, yeah, let me see.
Private chat.
I can go here. I just put it there. Well, yeah, I wrote it there. And then I'll send an email to the people that register for this workshop with all your information.
Great.
So they can follow you in LinkedIn and in social media. Paul, thank you very much. It was such a pleasure.
Wonderful.
So, I mean, all these ideas and congratulations on your emotional vocal intelligence, because I think it's, I mean, amazing. It's, we have this channel, which is the voice, and signals our presence and signals a lot of our essence. And I think that's so important. Thank you. Thank you so much. And have a
absolutely. Yeah.
And if you want to, I mean, if you want to come back, we're here. Let's make it happen.
Great. Great. Yes, I plan to stay on the faculty with everything, so I'm around.
Oh, yeah, we're together in the faculty for the Grow You in America. Yeah. All right. Thank you, David. Have a lovely week.
Pleasure. Thanks. You too. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bueno, muchísimas gracias a todos quienes nos acompañaron. Nos pasamos un poquito del tiempo, pero la verdad es que ha sido maravilloso tener a David aquí. Hemos aprendido un montón de cosas y ya saben, la postura, la respiración, la intención. Este webinar va a quedar en YouTube, pueden revisarlo. Creo que las diapositivas son maravillosas, con una súper explicación de cómo practicar los ejercicios y cómo trabajar en su voz. Y les vamos a estar comunicando de algún taller que David vaya a hacer. Yo lo voy a convencer de que haga uno porque este material está buenísimo. Muchísimas gracias, disfruten su semana y recuerden que la próxima semana tenemos la jornada de la educación, habilidades socioemocionales para la vida. Vamos a tener grandes invitados. Tenemos a Sherilyn Leeds, que es la directora de educación de 6 Seconds, y además tenemos a Julio Garay, que viene desde el Perú. Julio es el ganador del Premio de Innovación de National Geographic 2019. Julio inventó una galleta antianemia. Es un chico joven, un emprendedor joven, viene a contarles a los estudiantes, a la gente, cómo logró materializar un proyecto tan maravilloso. Tenemos a Eduardo González con un taller interactivo que te va a poner a mover, a analizar tus emociones, a sentir tus emociones, a escribir sobre tus emociones. Y bueno, ese es nuestro programa de la próxima semana y ya les estaremos mandando más información vía email. Muchísimas gracias, feliz semana y recuerden que todo es posible.